Slavoj Žižek eviscerates Fichte. In Less Than Nothing, Lacanian slash Hegelian slash Marxist philosopher Slavoj Žižek gets into the views of the philosopher Fichte. Many people saw Fichte as a radical idealist, which means he essentially believed that there is no material brain or world. There is only consciousness in our minds. Consciousness constructs reality. Continental philosophers at the time distinguished between three main positions in terms of philosophy of mind and free will: materialism or determinism or realism, depending on how you whatever you call it, but they basically mean the same thing. Idealism and compatibilism. The latter, compatibilism, is not mentioned in this paragraph, so I don't need to get into it, but some philosophers are compatibilists. Fichte sets up a dichotomy of possible descriptions of reality: materialistic determinism, like that of Spinoza, and idealism. Spinozan materialistic determinism specifically means that we are all bound by the laws of determinism and free will is an illusion. Fichte describes idealism as a world in which each of us is an autonomous in oh wait, not idealism. Oh wait, no, that is idealism. Fichte describes idealism as a world in which each of us as an autonomous individual with free will who spontaneously posits reality. Yeah, that I think that's right. That doesn't really. Oh yeah, well I'm giving a spoiler for what's going to be Zizek's criticism here. Fichte said, I like this. What philosophy one chooses depends on the kind of man one is. He thought that we don't actually use reason alone to decide how we think reality is constructed. That's obviously true, in my opinion. Our decision is practical. Whether you're a materialist or an idealist depends on what kind of person you are. Fichte chose idealism. Slavoj Žižek claims Fichte, he's full of shit and so on. He's not an idealist. He just thinks that he is one. Idealism for Fichte is not a new positive teaching which should replace materialism, and so on. His idealism is just intellectual masturbation open to anyone who accepts the autonomy of theoretical reason, and so on. Its only purpose is to destroy current deterministic dogma. If it became a theoretical understanding of reality, it would be just as bad as radical determinism. Fichte sees human life as a mere dream rather than an actual event. We would be no more human under one framework or the other, whether it's determinism or idealism. In one, I am the material to which life happens. In the other, I am an uninvolved spectator in the dream, which is my life. So basically, Zizek calls out Fichte for being full of shit and thinking that he's an idealist and claims that he's not actually one. Zizek agrees with Fichte that both choices have equal cause for lament, uh, idealism or materialism or realism. He says that Fichte was widely misunderstood as choosing idealism over realism. The latter, or realism, is basically another word for determinism or materialism. But neither realism nor idealism of any kind yield knowledge or theoretical understanding of reality. I agree with Zizek there. I think that compatibilism is just as stupid as though. Zizek used to be a compatibilist, but he recently became a realist slash determinist. Both realism and idealism lead to nothing but nonsense when taken to their logical conclusions. Intellect is not autonomous, and it must relate to the whole activity of a human being. We cannot escape our standpoint of being inside the reality that we're trying to understand, right? We try to understand uh, we try to understand reality, but we're within reality trying to like theoretically understand it from an external objective perspective. We can't observe reality from outside of it from the point of a neutral objective observer. The intellect, and hence the deterministic materialistic individual, is not autonomous. It has its foundation in our agency and our practical reason or will. Remember, Fichte argues that your type of philosophy depends on what kind of person you are. It actually kind of sounds like in this paragraph, Zizek is making an argument for compatibilism without saying so. You can see that he believes in practical reason or free will, but He's not a realist or a determinist. He obviously isn't an idealist either, though, since he spends these few paragraphs. Zizek, I'm talking about. Zizek is obviously not an idealist either, though, since he spends these few paragraphs trashing both realism and what he sees as Fichte's flawed but misunderstood version of idealism. As you obviously notice, Zizek doesn't even use the word compatibilism. I think that he either is being intellectually sneaky in order to attack other philosophers because that's what he does, or he's simply bashing realism and materialism without offering an alternative. I don't know whether he realizes his own hypocrisy or not, since he's doing the exact same thing for which he criticizes Fichte. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's aware of that but doesn't care. Zizek is a shit disturber.